The situation in Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir (PoK), which Pakistan calls Azad Jammu and Kashmir (AJK), has escalated dramatically over the last few days and is now one of the biggest internal crises Pakistan is facing in the region. So what happened? Violent clashes erupted between Pakistani security forces and supporters of the Joint Awami Action Committee JAAC, a powerful protest movement that has been campaigning against Islamabad's policies in PoK. The violence began in the Revolt region and quickly spread to the other areas. Official reports confirmed at least 11 deaths and more than 70 injuries, while protest organizations and some local sources claim the real toll could exceed 30 dead and around 200 injured. Reports indicate that police and paramilitary forces attempted to disperse protesters using force, leading to clashes, gunfire, and widespread unrest. Authorities have also arrested numerous activists and imposed restrictions including internet disruptions and increased security deployments. First, you need to understand what PoK actually is, because a lot of people have a fuzzy picture. Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir, called PoK in India, and Azad Kashmir by Pakistan, is the western portion of the Kashmir region and that Pakistan has controlled since the 1947 war. It is not a free independent state. It is not fully integrated Pakistani province either. It sits in a strange legal limbo governed by Pakistan's military establishment, used as a strategic buffer zone and a staging ground for militant activity, but its people have almost zero real political power. The people of PoK have been denied the freedoms and development visible across the line of control in India's Jammu and Kashmir, while their aspirations are crushed under the guise of solidarity. And here is what makes this current revolt so powerful. It did not start as a political movement. It started because people couldn't afford bread and electricity. The roots go back to May 2023, when residents first took to the streets protesting against skyrocketing electricity bills. It was further fueled by complaints of widespread flour smuggling and acute shortages of subsidized wheat. It then snowballed into a mass movement by August 2023. Think about that. Not a revolution, not a separatist uprising, just we can't afford to eat, we can't pay our electricity bill. Exactly. That's where this started. The people of PoK argue that they bear the ecological and geographical costs of massive dams like Mangala Dam, their land, their rivers, while the electricity generated is exported to mainland Pakistan and then sold back to them at inflated luxury rates. They produce the power, they pay the highest price for it. That is not governance, that is exploitation. Out of this anger, an organization was born, the JAAC, the Joint Awami Action Committee, established in the September 2023. It is a 31-member core coalition that includes traders, laborers, lawyers, transporters and civil society members, but not armed militants, not a terrorist group. Teachers, shopkeepers, lawyers, students coming together because the government had failed them completely. The coalition is demanding lower electricity prices, subsidized wheat and essential goods, greater political rights for local residents, better governance and transparency, and end to what protesters call exploitation of local resources, reforms in the legislative systems of PoK. The movement gained significant support because many residents believe the region's natural resources are being used without corresponding benefits reaching local people. The immediate trigger was a controversial issue involving 12 reserved seats in PoK Legislative Assembly. These seats are allotted to refugees from Jammu and Kashmir who reside in Pakistan rather than in PoK itself. JAAC argues that these seats allow outsiders to influence local politics and reduce the political voice of actual residents. A recent court ruling upheld these reserved seats, angering protesters and triggering fresh demonstrations. At the same time, the government recently banned JAAC under anti-terrorism laws and arrested many of its leaders and supporters. This transformed an already tense political dispute into a major confrontation. The current protests are not only because assembly seats, the deeper causes include economic frustration. Residents have long complained about high electricity costs despite the region producing significant hydroelectric power. Many also complain about inflation, unemployment, and rising living costs. Political marginalization. Many protesters argue that major decisions affecting PoK are effectively controlled from Islamabad rather than by local institutions. They believe local representation is weak and that political structures favor federal influence. Resource exploitation allegations. Protest groups claim that local resources, particularly water and power generation assets, benefit Pakistan more than local communities. These accusations have become a major rallying point for the movement. India reacted strongly to the crackdown. India's Ministry of External Affairs condemned the use of force against protesters and described the violence as evidence of governance failures in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. New Delhi accused Islamabad of suppressing dissent and violating human rights. India's position remains that the entire former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, including PoK, is legally part of India. Therefore, whenever unrest occurs there, India frequently highlights the issue of governance, human rights, and democratic representation under Pakistani administration. At present, the protests are directed against Pakistani authorities rather than India. There is no evidence that the protesters are targeting India or that the unrest is spreading across the line of control. The unrest could create several indirect effects. First, Pakistan may need to divert additional security resources into PoK to maintain order. Second, a prolonged instability could expose governance weakness in the region, strengthening India's diplomatic criticism. Third, instability near the line of control always carries the risk of miscalculation if tensions rise between India and Pakistan. However, as of now, there is no indication that the protests themselves pose a direct military threat to India. What began as a movement demanding cheaper electricity, affordable food, and political reforms has evolved into one of the most serious challenges to Pakistani authority in PoK in recent years. The controversy over legislative representation, combined with long-standing economic grievance and accusations of political marginalization, created a volatile situation. When authorities moved to ban the protest movement and arrest its leaders, tensions exploded into deadly clashes. Today, PoK stands at crossroads. For Pakistan, the crisis is becoming a test of governance and legitimacy. For India, it provides fresh ammunition for its criticism of Pakistan's administration of the territory. And for ordinary residents caught between political confrontation and security crackdowns, the central demands remain unchanged: economic relief, political representation, and greater voice in determining their future.